This is Benjamin Court, which has been a vital healthcare facility for the people of North Norfolk for several decades, now tragically and scandalously standing empty and unused since the middle of 2023. Benjamin Court was opened in 1996 on the site of the old Fletcher Hospital, which has been here since the late 19th century. It was opened to provide community healthcare facilities, and in the film you'll see and hear testimony from plenty of people who've really benefited from that service. But in 2017 the NHS closed it because of lack of money, of course. At that point the County Council stepped in. They established a reablement service, which was not a full health service, but it did provide important support and continue to provide the support for people who have left hospital, but who need to be helped to be ready to go home. But from 2020 onwards, they really ran it down. And by 2023, they'd come to a decision to close it. This was without any consultation with the public and with, frankly, virtually no notice, the actual minimal notice that they were required to do. It provoked a backlash, an angry reaction. People turned up to protest. Cromer Town Council called on the local MP, Duncan Baker at that time, to call a public meeting about the closure of Benjamin Court. This was held in August of 2023. It was a packed meeting, over 100 people attended who were very angry about the closure. And out of this, the Save Benjamin Court campaign was formed, initiated by the North Norfolk Trade Union Council. The aim of the campaign is to get Benjamin Court reopened as a facility for supporting people who've been discharged from hospital, because it's become a very acute problem in this area. Norfolk and Norwich has got one of the worst rates of delayed discharges, with terrible effects on patients, back-on effects on ambulance delays and more. This is a story of the campaign by local residents to save and reopen Benjamin Court. Benjamin Court! Save Benjamin Court!
It's really testament to Benjamin Court, but without Benjamin Court enabling him to have intensive physio and a care package put into place, the staff were just wonderful.
And do you know, I felt as a carer, I was cared for. And it was a brilliant service, and it was local.
But the decision to shut Benjamin Court was wrong, and that decision, we wanted a full review of it and it to be looked at again.
Health and social care should be free at the point of use, but it also should be available at the point of use. And I mean, that's the problem at the moment. It just isn't available.
Save Benjamin Court! Save Benjamin Court!
It's a precious unit, and we shouldn't let this just go. It needs to be turned back to a nurse-led unit where we can re-able people. That ward was always full.
But there are so many healthcare reasons to keep it open. We don't have enough of this in North Norfolk.
Ambulances lining up at one door of the hospital, and people unable to get out the other door because there isn't anywhere to send them.
We know this is the most obvious and logical provision. I think we've got to fight for the future. There's every reason to invest in Benjamin Court, but we cannot afford to lose that provision.
Save Benjamin Court! Save Benjamin Court!
Professor Sir Chris Whitty states that North Norfolk has the oldest and most rapidly ageing population in England and Wales. 1/3 of the population is aged over 65. There will be more demand for appointments with doctors, dentists and hospitals, a rise in emergency admissions and more people living with long-term conditions. If nothing changes, the demand for appointments across Norfolk and Waveney will be more than 1,000 per day.
My sister bed blocked in the NNN for 6 weeks, stopping seriously ill people who needed to be in hospital from being admitted due to what they called lack of beds. She was not fully fit to go home, but the social services could not find anywhere for her to go. Benjamin Court would have been the answer. An acute hospital is not a place of safety for an elderly patient, and some need more help than can be coped with at home.
Beds were moved around to try and make more and more space for the incoming patients. So there I was, taking up a critical bed in an overcrowded ward, when, had it not been closed, I could have been at Benjamin Court. It would have been much easier for my family to visit and support me. One day my wife spent 4 hours driving in order to cover the visiting time.
My carer came again today. She said, "It seems that the majority of hospital discharges that require care are now being deemed unsafe and returned to hospital. In one case it is alleged that a lady was discharged after 10 p.m. and finally got home around 3 at night with no support. Carers went in at 7 in the morning and found her freezing cold. They called the ambulance and returned her to the hospital."
I know of an elderly patient who was taken to rehab in Norwich, convalescing after a fall. She was there nearly 2 months as Benjamin Court was not available. Her elderly husband could not travel that far to visit her, and unfortunately he died of COVID and never got to see her again.
This month it was said that we currently have 62 patients on the rehab waiting list. Obviously, that's a significant number of people that are waiting. And while they're waiting, they're getting further deconditioned in what is an inappropriate setting for them.
They just don't want to invest in elderly patients because it doesn't achieve value for money in their eyes. So they allow bed blocking. What sense is there in that? Or compassion? The Integrated Care Board seems to think this sort of thing is acceptable.
Bed blocking at Norfolk and Norwich University Hospital can be more than 20% of the total number of patients in the wards. 40% of people delayed in hospital are awaiting a social care package. Here's a snapshot of the cost of delayed discharges in Norfolk and Waveney for September 2024. The figures were calculated on one extra night costing the NHS £395, though this is probably higher now. It's based on an average of the total number of people per day with a length of stay of 14 days or over, who no longer meet the criteria to reside but were not discharged. Over 4 weeks, the total cost of delayed transfer amounts to more than £10,935,000.
Benjamin Court annual rent, rates and services totalled $353,000, and social care staffing costs were just under $207,000. That's an annual running cost of just £560,000. We have asked the ICB for a cost-benefit analysis of their care at home system, including blocked hospital admissions and discharges, purchase of beds in private care homes, visiting care worker costs, virtual ward systems, failed discharges, readmissions, more GP visits and extra ambulance call-outs, etc. They've not responded to our requests.
I had a conversation with our community care nurse, mainly about her being unhappy with spending too much time in the car and not enough time with her patients. She told me she was angry about the closure of Benjamin Court and that many of her patients have had to go back into hospital because the home care nurses haven't been able to offer the 24-hour care and support which had previously been provided at Benjamin Court. Her colleagues also tell of their frustration and disappointment at finding themselves spending more time driving in their cars than with their patients on their home visits. Morale is very, very, very low. Today I chatted to a community carer in Sheringham. She said there were no parking spaces in this area of Sheringham as it's very busy this time of year. In the summer, it's bad. This is why they're late. It's not that they've been late leaving the last client, it's just that they've been held up on the road. The elderly couple I work for have 2 care workers in attendance 4 times a day, every day. They are there 10 minutes to lift the patient and change the pad underneath. One carer is often waiting outside for the other to turn up, sometimes as long as 30 minutes. It's a breather for one, but a rush for the other. I think what I'm saying is that it's a minefield, and only luck is getting them through their shift.
The Benjamin Court tragedy has been going on too long. Cromer and much of North Norfolk benefited from its proximity, and local people would get the care they deserved without an arduous trip to Norwich. Despite closure as an NHS hospital in 2018, the later council-run system still offered a valuable service to local people and made a positive difference to health outcomes.
I was taken into the hospital with sepsis. I was in this ward, which is very crowded. Across from me was this very disturbed old man who had a way of becoming very aggressive. He is a danger to the whole ward, but the attendants seemed generally unconcerned and take it as being a normal situation. But then he comes across to my bed and threatens me. Finally, he can't be ignored. He's completely naked, with a bag containing all his bodily waste hanging between his legs. He proceeds to wander around the beds in the ward until a nurse arrives and tries to put him back in bed, but he refuses to go. She blames it all on the small staff as she apologises. I think he should be in mental care. Eventually, a very nice woman came and started to talk to me about possibly leaving the hospital. I was told it will be a long time, because I was 40s or 50s waiting list ahead of me.
My husband was in hospital for 3 weeks longer than he should have been because there was no placement for him in a convalescent situation. He was too weak and fragile to come home. I was told this by the doctors. So during those 3 weeks when he was basically stuck in hospital, staring at a clock, his mental decline was very, very alarming. He became extremely depressed and said he wanted to die. He developed ulcers on his feet and bed sores. The ulcers meant that when he did eventually get home, after a long time, we had to visit the GP twice a week for 18 months until they were cured.
She came and said, "We found a place for you in Cromer," and I was ambulanced out to Benjamin Court, and it was really like going into paradise or something. There I had a room of my own with a television so I could catch up with some news. The food wasn't bad at all. Oh, I couldn't believe to be so lucky to be out of the hospital.
The focus should be on high-quality community care beds with expert rehabilitation teams, as that will be a valuable addition to the care for older people. Buying extra nursing home beds will, in isolation, not stop corridor care or improve outcomes. Moving older people around the care system to the wrong place is simply like moving the deck chairs on the Titanic. It doesn't help them, and it won't stop the overcrowding that leads to so many languishing in emergency care corridors.
The campaign team and local councillors visited the unit and discovered that the building had been well maintained and everything was in good order. It was a strange experience. We saw empty bedrooms and echoing corridors, which should have been busy with the daily bustle of carers and patients.
I had the privilege of working at Benjamin Court. It was a wonderful nurse-led unit, and it still could be. The staff were amazing because everybody was local. The ward sister, the ward matron were such a close-knit team. They all pulled together, they all helped. The nurses were really lovely. So when you went there, even if you were somebody that had come along to assist with one shift, it was so lovely to be part of that team. Certainly in my time of being there, there was never a problem of staff coming if they couldn't drive, and if they were in the town, obviously they could walk to work, which was lovely.
On a normal weekday, we'd welcome patients to the ward, give them a sense that they were going to be well looked after straight away, that this was a sanctuary, and we offered up to 6 weeks of reablement care. Mobilisation was a great thing, of course, and these were people who maybe hadn't been very mobile for a long while, and so therefore it took longer to achieve that goal, but obviously more rewarding for them and for the nurses to see people get better in that way.
And families and relatives, friends, always coming to visit because they were so local to the area. It meant a lot to keep people going as well, and it kind of helped a lot about their rehab to getting home. I feel really sorry for the people that have lost all that daycare facility and all those chances that people had just for that little respite for their loved ones, you know, to go and spend the day and have their meal with people that they knew.
When I worked there were many examples of great palliative care, often overlooked but so necessary, and such an oasis in a desert of care. Our aim was to get them as well as possible and to get them back home. So it was good to see them to go and know that we'd done a good job, I suppose. Rewarding, yeah.
It's such a shame, and driving in there and seeing it all closed off and empty, and, you know, it's devastating, absolutely devastating.
Bring it back. Revive the spirit.
In this film, you've seen a very powerful case made by local residents and others for Benjamin Court to be reopened. We now have a government in power who say that they are committed to putting more healthcare in the community and not in hospitals. There could not be a better example of how that could be done than to have Benjamin Court reopened for the people of North Norfolk. They have recently say they've taken back control of the NHS. They say the buck stops with them. Okay, we will take this to the government to say you need to support the case for reopening Benjamin Court and investing much more in community facilities for areas like North Norfolk.